So with our handsome Mr. W, I noticed that when I go to grab for gear, he gets a little bit excited, which again is nothing wrong with that. But if, let's say, for example, it turns into like a barking moment, or he starts to mouth or gets really jazzed, when we go to hook up, he might be thinking that's the behavior we want him to keep doing because it gives him the clip, and then we go out to do the fun. So he's obviously doing a really nice job now going and finding my crumbs, which is splendid. But if, let's say, grabbing for a leash or grabbing for your keys or whatever the different distraction item might be starts to get the puppy really jazzed, I'd start to sometimes practice grabbing for the equipment, help the puppy do a couple finits, let them get cozy, and then for being soft, that might be the moments that you're feeding as well, and you can put the equipment back down. So you might practice picking it up, putting it down, and then gauging his comfort range or excitability or anxiety around the dynamic. And we want to make sure that with Mr. W, if, let's say, clipping him on as he's barking and being a little bit of a wild man equals then we go outside, then the woo-woo or losing our marbles might be by accident what we're reinforcing with hooking up and going and doing that thing. Winston, come. Nice job, sir. So if, let's say, putting gear out and about is tricky, which I noticed earlier, he'd start barking and get a little excited for the equipment. I wanted to make sure that the gear wasn't always the trigger for get too jazzed or lose your marbles for a moment. So ready, Winston, come. Nice job, sir. So we're going to practice a little bit. So here's my leash and my equipment. He's already got his collar. Oh, chewing is still so hard. So for Mr. W, I know we discussed harnesses being beneficial, especially if your puppies are still at times pulling. I know today he came on a collar, no big deal. We haven't really done much work on gear. Just remember that if sometimes while he's learning, he might end up seeing something and then pull on the equipment. So I'm not saying you can't condition him to working in a collar and working really nice and softly, but it would be one of those things that if he still has moments where he gets flustered or excited or a little overwhelmed, it might be where the collar could at times also be a little bit of a jarring moment for him, where the collar itself could be also sometimes causing some of that uncomfortable feeling around his neck. So right now he did a great job coming over and checking in. I'm going to do a little bit with some of this loose leash walking with gear on. Nice. So he's again snuffing and making those little sneezes, which means he's kind of having a really great time right now. So you'll see that for right now, as I can grab my fingers to work, is I like to go ahead, oh, I dropped one, we'll find that bad boy later, is I like to have my leash on the opposite side of the puppy and then be able to feed my dog or my babe next to my leg while we're working through the loose leash walking. So with the babes, if again, they're having a really hard time with this, come distractions, make sure that you're building up a lot of really great deposits into this behavior before you would need it in the real world. So if, let's say, he maybe goes on the right side more than the left, I forgot to ask which side you guys prefer. Remember that, just like I mentioned earlier with Mr. Z, nice job, sir, is it can be really beneficial to get your puppy comfortable doing both sides of your body anyway. So you can see Mr. Handsome still has this gorgeous little trot that we normally had in class too. Good job, sir. And we're making it seem fun to do these weird behaviors. So remember, no dog walks up to another dog and says, hey, for fun, would you like to do some loose leash walking or maybe do some downstays or work some recalls? So all of these weird skills are skills that we have deemed beneficial for the puppy in our human world, but it's nothing that really dogs find that appealing or beneficial. So we're creating these behaviors and then also creating value in trying them because it involves a little paycheck. So just like with us, ready, we'll do a little front. We don't work for free. So even though we might do some pro bono work or some volunteering, which is wonderful, a lot of times if you put in the 40-hour work week or do some overtime, and then your boss is like, wow, great job, high five, you might be like, where's the money? So remember, ready? And that if, for example, you're expecting a paycheck and you don't get one, you may never want to work for that particular individual again. So I know a lot of times people are like, well, when can I stop feeding my dog or when can I stop feeding them snacks? Remember that, again, intermittent, ready? Reinforcement is really beneficial to keep the maintenance of those skills. Like when I do recalls, I always feed my dog for the recall. Because if, for again, your babe does start to find, ready? Winston's like, there's a good smell. Nice job. So if he gets a little distracted, do a little kissy noise. Nice feed for that. Oh boy. but I want to make sure that my dogs find value. Woohoo, that one rolled further than I thought. We want them to find value in the things that we're asking them to do. So a lot of times, if they get the same reinforcement, which is 0, when they're being, again, good or bad, a lot of times your dog has more fun doing the things that they find beneficial, which could be frolicking the yard and ignoring as you're squealing in the distance, calling them 4, 5, 15 times. They might find it more fun to run and chase a bunny or a squirrel in the woods versus doing a recall. So remember that whenever you are with your babe, you are creating opportunities to help them be successful in the things you want him to master, or you're helping him be successful in failing and then thinking that maybe those skills might be the skills you prefer instead. So if, again, he goes to jump, I would just ignore. If, again, I wanted him to do something else, we could ask for a beautiful little sit and then feed for all 4 on the floor, or feed for the sit, or feed for find it. So you're going to go ahead and try to think about creating moments where your puppy is going to be successful without pushing them past their breaking point, either mentally or physically. So if, let's say, ready, Winston, let's say your babe can really only handle a little bit of practice in the yard versus going for a walk, where out in the world they're getting bombarded with all the novel things and people and people passing by on bikes, or let's say other dogs or small children or whatever it might be for a trigger. You want to make sure that Mr. W is able to practice the how-to before you throw in those difficult moments. Because if he can't quite manage these skills in and around the home or the yard, he's not going to be able to manage them in those real-world dynamics. And remember, generalization takes time and a lot of good reps. So again, right now he's a little distracted. I'm going to go, Winston, come. Yes, what a good boy. So for his very first day, he is doing stellar. He's really doing quite lovely. So make sure too, if there's certain things that you guys are having a hard time with at home, check in with me, let me know. I want to make sure that what we're touching base on are things that you're having difficulty with, so we can make sure to address them and help him and you guys in the home front. So, but for his first day, I think he did splendid. He might want to go out for another little potty break, but he did such a good job for his first day. So we'll give Mr. W a little breather. He did awesome.